And now he seems to be involved in this thermite that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Do I think it's purely coincidence?
Steve Jones was involved in derailing cold fusion?
Yeah, the Pons and Fleischmann. He did other studies with a different kind of cold fusion. Showed it produced very little energy, but he wasn't replicating Pons and Fleischmann, which claimed to be producing a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So I mean, and there are other aspects of his research record that raise questions. I didn't talk about it here, for example, but one of his early studies, he's a Mormon, was what he purported to present scientific evidence in defense of the belief that Jesus Christ visited North America after his resurrection. Oh. And the evidence he presented were Mayan artifacts that he alleged showed stigmata. And he takes this very seriously. We actually had a conversation about it because
we do.
Really? We like stigmata.
I'm curious.
Yeah. I discussed it in one interview and explained how this is falls in the category of ink blot phenomena. You can look at things and interpret them all so many different ways, you know, these marks on these artifacts. But he was claiming it was scientific evidence that supported the belief that Jesus Christ had visited North America after his resurrection. Well, here is a scientist endorsing a miracle to begin with. I mean, it's his religious beliefs, which normally I wouldn't even comment on, but because he's claiming to have scientific evidence for them, you see, it's fair game. In a course I did on science and pseudoscience, we talked about these kinds of advances like the face on Mars, okay? It's like a whole bunch of other issues. You know, von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods, right? The aliens came here.
Just say, you don't think that there's any possibility that that could be true?
Jesus Christ came after his resurrection? No, I don't think there's any possibility that could be true.
No. I didn't say that. I said Chariots of the Gods.
No. It's fraught with so many problems.
No, I'm not talking
about... What about Face on Mars? Come on, do you believe that's true?
But just a second. You don't think that there's any possibility that there could have been aliens on Earth?
Listen, it's a regression problem.
Right. It doesn't make any
instead of evolution, you have the aliens come and colonizing, but then where did the aliens come from? An earlier visitation by earlier aliens, and where did they come from? If you say at one point one of those civilizations evolved, then why not here on Earth? It's a much simpler explanation.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, but you don't think that there's any possibility that we could have been visited?
Well, those are two very different questions. He's claiming that civilization and life on Earth is really a colony.
Who? You mean
von Däniken?
Von Däniken?
Yeah.
Well, do you think that evolution may have happened faster in some places and slower in others, and there may have been more advanced civilizations that came here to visit?
Listen, I think when it comes to the possibility of other, life elsewhere in the universe, I think the odds favor it.
Right, because that's a huge government cover-up.
It seems to me, for example, everyone until he found Troy.
Except it wasn't Troy.
Well, there's layers of Troy.
There's layers. Layers.
Well,
let's talk about layers.
That Homer talked about something that didn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, that's a case where I'm more inclined to think, that ancient works like that are probably founded in fact.
Well, the Bible itself is a history. It doesn't mean it's true, but it's a historical.
But it's interesting to
some
me
history to there.
That people think people are crazy until they find out it's true.
Agreed. I agree with that. Now, see, a book I used in this course on science and pseudoscience is about frauds and mysteries in archaeology. And it talked about many of these phenomena, including ink blot phenomena, such as von Däniken wanted to advance, where you see this drawing and, they say, well, it looks like kind of a spaceman looking through a telescope, but God, it could be a zillion different...
What about crop circles? Where do they come from?
Wait. But back to
that science or pseudoscience?
What did you think of Palenque?
Palenque.
The big rock in Palenque.
The guy with the spaceship, he's flying a spaceship. The Mayan flying a spaceship.
It's got
that's a carving. That's one of them. That's one in the book.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
That's just a curiosity. I don't know what to make of that.
You don't think that there's any possibility that it could have anything to do?
There are different kinds of possibility. Okay, logical possibility means it's not self-contradictory. Okay, physical possibility means it's not doesn't violate the laws of nature. Historical possibility, which would mean it could really happen, that's the question. I mean, it's obviously possible in those other two senses.
But you know what I hate is when people sell out for a greater good. They think a greater good.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Stephen Jones is selling out.
Well, I believe in resurrection. I believe in a lot of these things that Webster ridicules. But the point is when I see somebody who should sort of be resonant with following it to the end, and then I clearly see them doing something that's just not democratic, it's not intellectually free, then I become very concerned.
The fact is, it was wonderful.
I become depressed. I mean, I just...
This book I have used for so many years is just wonderful because it deals with such a wide range of phenomena, but I never expected that Steve Jones, a physicist I invite to be my co-chair for scholars, should be one of those who's in the inkblot phenomenon category.
Did
that
you
just blew me away.
Have you brought this up to Stephen Jones himself? All his
Yeah, sure.
What does he say?
I discussed it in 2 10-minute segments on a program where I was subsequently interviewing Judy Wood, and it was transcribed and is posted.
What was his response?
Oh, he's just not happy about it. He believes in it. He's not happy about it. I'll tell you what, I pointed out, among other things, when I was talking about this, because I was also discussing his inadequate model of science. I mean, one of my areas of expertise.
That's a much
well, you know, one of my areas of expertise.
How do you have thermite? How do you have that much thermite?
Well, no, it's his characterization of science in terms of steps or stages. It's hopelessly inadequate. I mean, that's one of my areas, right? So, I mean, the point was, I was not only critiquing that, but I was explaining how this was an inkblot phenomenon, right? Because there's such a latitude for subjective interpretation here. You could have 2 different students come to completely opposite conclusions about it. But more importantly, that with regard to the stigmata, and this is without seeing this paper, I said that if the stigmata were not in the wrist, then of course they were vulnerable to the criticism that you can't sustain a crucifixion physically by nails merely through the palms because they would rip out. And we actually got into a phone conversation.
It has nothing to do with the crucifixion.
Right. Well, right. But the point is, if you're going to crucify someone on a cross, you can't physically have the body remain intact unless you put the nails through the wrist bones. Okay. Now we were having this phone conversation. He was apoplectic about it. He said, they were through the wrist bone. He was just going on and on about, well, I admitted I had never read the paper.
He said they weren't through
the wrist bone. They were. He insisted the stigmata showed, you know, these holes through the wrist bone. So that, you know, but I hadn't said that I'd seen it. I said if they don't show them through the wrist bone.
Paula, these are Mayan artifacts that he was saying that showed.
He's interpreting as showing the stigmata that's supposed to be. His reasoning is if Christ came to the New World after his resurrection and other civilizations had seen it, they'd have recordings of it of some sort. He finds these Mayan artifacts and he interprets them as recordings because they show what he takes to be the stigmata, the wounds of Christ.
There were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people crucified.
Well, that's a nice point too.
But how many were resurrected afterwards and came to the New World?
But Paula,
how do you know they came to the New World?
I know, but this is just what he's saying.
Well, because he said, go ahead, you got it, because maybe it's for you.
Hello?
It's for you.
Yeah, Tony went really, really well.
I think he did for the New World.
It was all around space beans and
no
times and all that, and I just nailed it every single one. I'll tell you.
Well, you don't want to say what you really mean on camera? Jones, there's something off with this whole argument.
Something's wrong.
So does that mark a split within the 9/11?
Oh, yeah, that's what this is all about. We divided in November. We started dividing. And then he and a group of his allies tried to steal the website from me.
Really?
Yes, because he had a friend of his who was an attorney who had obtained the website at my direction. On behalf of the society, he was able to take it from me rather than return it to me when they split.
Really?
They put out they seized our email list. They sent out a phony vote with an anonymous, a fake membership administrator's name and address.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was all shoddy with anonymous
over this new
over this division
technology
yes, because I was willing to broaden the scope of hypotheses under consideration. It's been all of that.
Who's with you? Is Webster with you?
Well, Webster hasn't resigned from the society. I lost about 25%.
Who would you lose that was prominent in the society?
The most prominent, Kevin Ryan, the guy who had been with Underwriters Laboratory. He's the only one I would rather still have. Steve.
He could go along with the exotic weaponry.
No, he's going with Steve. I don't know why. But I mean, for him to send me this trivializing letter when I point out that one of their authors is, abusing principles of scholarship by editing a sentence of mine and inverting its meaning and making it the headpiece.
What letter did they send you?
What letter did? Yeah. Oh, he sent a response to my submitting a formal complaint to the editors of the journal about a piece that they were publishing that was completely irresponsible because the author had taken a sentence of mine and inverted its meaning by selectively editing it.
I see.
But here's my question. Aren't people allowed to have differing ideas?
Of course.
And not be labeled as, sort of like...
Hounded?
No. If you're part of the Scholars for 9/11 Truth, each scholar will have their own view.
Absolutely right. And I think there's a misunderstanding even about that to this day. The only formal statements of the society are our press releases. Everyone's entitled to have their own opinions.
But what I'm saying is that you don't have a specific position that everybody has to toe the party line.
How are you
not over and beyond our press releases?
How are you ever going to improve the exotic weaponry thing? Because there's nothing been anything to duplicate that, though.
You're the one believing in aliens.
No.
Right.
Now look, do you have differential effects from different causes?
Right.
If there were no differential effects, then you could not test them. But there are effects here that aren't explainable on the basis of conventional sources.
I know, but
this forces us in the area of the non-conventional. Now, to go further and to replicate, you need to be able to identify the class of those weapons. That's what she's working on.
Will it ever be replicated? Where's it
Just a second. Alan's a virgin here. You need to
they're using some of these weapons in Iraq right now.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, we're getting reports.
Well, that would be the way to duplicate
We're getting reports of wilted cars that reacted like a wet cloth, okay?
Really?
Some weapon that was silent. It was.
I have seen that.
Oh, you haven't seen these photos.
Well, I'm sure I have.
I didn't see him until
you gotta shoot Alan.
I want to see, because I know I saw flattened, I've seen 9 stories flattened together.
Am I ever going to get this apart? If I get it apart, am I ever going to get it?
I'll get you another one, just tear it.
Here, we'll give you another bag.
I'm virtually too tired to do it.
I'll give you another bag, okay?
Okay, now show these pictures, because I never...
show me a picture.
In Chandler, I never...
Just look at the color photo section.
No.
You want to look at the color photo? Yeah. Jack White?
Yeah.
You got to show it to
Look
me.
at the dustification of the building, Alan.
I've seen dust like... I mean, I've seen the dust.
Yeah. Can that be from any kind of collapse, whether it was with conventional...
But show how it's like pulverized so that...
Oh, he's see.
Oh, so this is where the building is going to fall over?
Yeah, that's what it's trying, and then it turns to powder.
How is that possible?
Well, that's the point. How is it possible? And yet even Steve Jones, who's the foremost advocate of conventional explosives, acknowledges that it happened. I quote him in the
exotic weaponry, how would something like that be?
Something exotic. You put your finger on it.
That would be weird. Oh, wow.
What exactly do you mean by exotic weaponry?
Some kind of high tech, some stuff we don't know about.
Lasers?
It's classified. Lasers, masers, plasmoids,
What is this?
maybe antimatter. They have some reflective capacity where they reflect back. It's some sophisticated variation. Look, I'm not claiming to be an expert.
No, I'm just...
Yeah, on lasers, masers, and plasmoids.
What are plasmoids?
Well, most of the universe apparently is full of plasma, and plasmoids are some way of turning these into a form of weaponry that has high explosive and heat potential, like temperatures in the tens of thousands of degrees C. And that would be very consistent with a lot of what seems to have happened here for demolecularization.
Where are the melted cars?
See, Alan, you're the one believing
in the back. No. The melted cars are in the back.
Wilted cars.
Melted, yeah. Here on the next page. There are 1,400 of these, Alan. 1,400 that have weird effects.
Isn't that the debris that just landed on the cars?
Well, it's real odd. You know, one wonders. Steve Jones, he just says all these things are done by thermite. Anything that's at all odd, he says thermite. I don't know if you remember, this is long before your time, but there used to be this television program about Froggy, and he would plunk his magic twanger, you know, and that would make anything happen. Well, thermite is Steve Jones' magic twanger, all right, and he's plunking it. He's plunking it over time.
Can you find a better car one, like with
yeah, it's on the next page. Did you turn the page?
Show the next page.
Yeah, it's the next page.
Ooh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that a good car?
Show that one. Yeah. It's not great contrast in it, but...
Well, it's because, you know, when you're printing right on
Where'd
the
you
paper.
get these photos from?
Oh, Judy's got a whole archive on them. There are many, many more.
So
you go to drjudywood.com.
Are we going to have to make a trip to South Carolina?
I have sent her. I've sent Paula a box of 10 books, Alan.
South Carolina in August with no aircraft.
I don't know where the hell they are, why they haven't shown up.
Do you have a tracking number on you?
I'm gonna have it checked.
Against my will.
Yeah, you need to go down and have her in a comfortable setting.
Joe wants
and you get a huge...
Maybe you and Joe could go down.
Yeah,
maybe. Her car?
Is there a place, do you think she has an extra room or so?
Easy to find out.
Yeah.
Maybe you and Joe and Buck should go.
I can, yeah.
Yeah, Buck will drive us there. I got a ride. I've got a friend who loves to go back and forth and back and forth.
He's been through south of the border how many times?
What did your friend here think? What was his story? He was down at Ground Zero, and what was his...
Who?
The guy who was here today.
Tony?
Tony.
Oh, Tony was a construction worker who was involved in some of the cleanup, and he got exposed. He was down there for about a week, and he got exposed to some of the dust.
And why does he think it's a conspiracy, or...
Oh, he's been looking into this quite a lot.
Oh.
He's a 9/11 researcher. He got me on this Pal Talk show several times. And the guy, his buddy of his who run the Pal Talk thing, has his own show now, and he got me on that again too, and all that. So I mean, this guy has been a steadfast supporter of me for a very long time. He's been very upset by all these attacks on me. And he actually volunteered. He wanted to come into the city because he thought I needed a bodyguard. What a sweet guy.
Yeah,
what a sweet guy.
So this is...
This is the only frame in any of the 3 videos or the 5 frames that the Pentagon has released that shows anything resembling an aircraft.
But
so if you scale,
is it a missile?
Well, it seems to be both. It seems to be a small aircraft that fired a missile. You've got this white plume that's distinctive of a missile. See.
So what happened to the aircraft, though?
Well, I think it crashed into the building. I think it was a small plane. It's about half the size of a 757.
Now, do you think there were passengers on the plane?
No.
What happened to those passengers?
Well, the plane goes off the radar screen in the Ohio-Kentucky border, and it's not on the radar screen all the way back to Washington, where another plane appears to have been substituted.
Where
did it go?
Passengers that were supposed
I haven't the foggiest. The whole thing about the passengers is just fucking bloody mysterious.
Well, I had heard a story that they were offloaded in some abandoned...
No, let's see. A flight landed. It was supposed to be 93 in Cleveland. Offloaded in Cleveland.
But
there was a report from
there's some abandoned field that they were offloaded.
Well, you may be running together 2 different stories. There's a story of the Flight 93, the one that's supposed to have gone down in Pennsylvania. Right, but landing at Cleveland, okay? There was a local TV station, Molly, that covered the story. The mayor went out there. He confirmed it. It was Flight 93. They took it to a distant part of the airport. They offloaded over 200 passengers.
What happened?
Now, each of those planes was 25% full. To get 200, you're talking about combining all the passengers from all the flights onto one plane, which could have been done. For any of those 4 planes, you could have had them all.
Where are those people now?
Well, I'll be goddamned if I can tell you where they are now. It's all very, very mysterious. But listen to this. This story was revised like 14 times before they finally repudiated it. And that tells me they had a hot potato. This thing got into the press. They didn't know what to do with it. They revised it. There was no way they could salvage because there was too much of the basic story there. So they had to eventually just kill it by repudiating it.
You should investigate the crash at Roswell. They've revised that 100 times.
Well,
you know, the government.
I got the Operation, Majestic
Are you just being
stuff.
polite about
I think that Roswell is a real possibility. I don't rule it out.
Thank you.
Look, I'm carrying a lot of water here. I can't be a lot of water. I do all this work on JFK. I have a book on Paul Wellstone. I do all this stuff on 9/11. If I am out there buying into every possible conspiracy, I begin to look like a lunatic, right? So I have views. I have views about some of these things, but they're not matters that I'm pursuing publicly. I discuss with my classes about the possibility of UFOs and distribute the Roswell document and explain why, as a former Marine Corps officer, this looks authentic to me. It was authored by Vannevar Bush, who indeed was Truman's scientific advisor.
Right.
It looks completely authentic to me.
Right.
So to that extent, I tend to take it seriously. Am I to the position where I am ready to publicly defend the proposition that there was an alien incident there? No, I'm not. But that doesn't mean I'm not open-minded about it.
Right.
We need your research with our alien investigations. Forget this stuff. Let's go to the No, that's the bigger problem.
This is the great threat to the nation right now, Now, I don't know about
I agree.
Well, that's true. The government.
But I'll tell you, this show tonight was so useful. Okay, because he was putting the questions out there very baldly, and I was nailing every one of them, and he was being receptive. By the end of the program, he was telling me he wanted to have me back. I was so grateful for my clarification. Right. He really understood better. But you see, I had to not mince any words and to talk about, the powerful influence of rumor on the weak-minded, like the Force. The Force can have a powerful influence on the weak-minded. Because this is all rubbish, and it's coming from the Steve Jones camp. I know they're the ones who are fanning the flames. That are fanning the flames.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Nothing.
The Force is with you guys?
As soon as he said the Force is something about weak mind, we are, yes, together. So it's intense. Anyway.
This was extremely useful. This was extremely good.
Yeah.
But particularly because I was so clear and so powerful on every issue.
Yeah.
Somebody's out there.
Uh-oh, someone's out
The
there.
conspiracy.
Stop.
Nobody's
No, open the door.
Just
Who's
remember.
out there?
Just
We're
open
the
the
Who's
lunatic
out there?
fringe.
Molly, open the door. See who's out there.
There's nobody out there.
There's someone listening to us.
Just open the door.
Shh.
Right.
An umbrella.
See, I told you.
An umbrella organization was out
There you go.
Umbrella
Organization indeed.
Well, that's
No, what was so beautiful about was that my answers were so clear and crisp and powerful. See,
They were good.
anyone who listened to it and loud, I know. I am. You think I feel the words have to be pushed through the
Well,
telephone?
no,
No,
because
that's
they
nice.
were
Yeah,
having a
right.
hard time hearing you.
They were. They had a
It's
massive
just-
problem, but I'm always like that on the phone. I'm always
Amazes
booming.
me.
Now,
I'm
now
just fucking
Jim,
booming.
this may not be your expertise. What about Operation Paperclip? Maybe that's more Webster's shtick.
I'm trying to recollect what that
It's where they took General Galen, who was a Nazi
Oh, this is
general,
bringing the Nazis
and he
into the
started
U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, Webster knows a lot of that, and I don't.
You don't know.
No,
that.
no, no.
Okay.
That's Webster's thing. Yeah.
Okay.
He really is an encyclopedia of knowledge
my
about
God.
these things.
Right.
I think he's a wonderful resource.
He's an astonishing
He is.
resource.
I've had him on shows where I was just blown away. In fact, he's been upset because he's forgotten what he's written in his own book about directed energy weapons and chemical lasers. And I think he doesn't want to be reminded, see, because everyone is attacking us and he doesn't want to be tarnished by the same brush. But you see how I'm deploying it now. I mean, here's Webster, perfectly respected. He talks about directed energy weapons at the Twin Towers and the World Trade Center. He talks about chemical lasers. Nobody was excited when they had it in his book. Why is that? It's there.
Well, it's just a sentence or two. It's
Well,
very-
but that's all right. It's there. The point is it's there. He's appealing to it.
Well, he can't not be. On his show, he said that China destroyed their own satellite. He said, now maybe they took another satellite next to it and made
Oh,
it
no,
go
no.
off.
They had an old satellite. They wanted to show that they could take out satellites, so they blew up one of their own satellites.
How
Yeah,
did they
that's
do
right.
it?
Oh, they put up, well, they've got an anti-satellite weapon that they just tested on their own satellite.
No, but he said it could have been a laser.
Oh, that it could have been a laser. Well, that's an interesting
So I
speculation.
said, Webster, well, if it could have been a laser to take down the Chinese satellite, why couldn't it do the World Trade Center? And he said, oh, you can't compare because the satellite's so little and the World Trade Center's so big. But then I said, but a satellite's so far away and the World Trade Center.
I love it. See, Paula's giving a nice counter argument. I love it. That's good.
Yeah, but
that's very good.
But then he did his big intellectual, Stonewall.
Well, he can do that.
No, it's
See,
called intimidation.
It's called
That's a
intimidation.
difference.
It's called intellectual terrorism.
Intellectual terrorism.
Webster will do
Scare
that.
him into submission.
He will stonewall with intellectual
I know,
bullshit.
Believe me, I've had him on my show a number of times,
Yeah.
and I adore Webster, but I do not agree with intellectual terrorism.
No, I don't either.
That is
Webster.
unacceptable.
But
He would be the
wasn't
first
what I was saying effective? I mean, you could see what I was having to deal with by what I had to say.
And Webster says, Webster says you have a big ego.
You were terrorized.
Webster says, I have a big ego. And I look at Webster and I say, my God, were the arms big enough to wrap around his? I say,
Yeah, but-
give me a fucking break.
I didn't feel like you were terrorizing those guys.
Right. Go ahead.
You were making your point forcefully.
Right.
You weren't just trying to
Intimidate anyone.
intimidate them
just
into
a second.
submission.
In defense of Webster, I want to say
Oh, we're all in the
that, that until I read this
We
book,
love Webster. We
until I
think
read
Webster
that
is
book.
marvelous. Words are not words adequate to sing the praise of Webster.
No, but
Paul, let Paul
he's
talk.
frustrated. No, the reason he's like that is he's frustrated. Nobody reads.
Nobody reads. I agree. See, that's what I'm saying. All this complaints about Judy and
that's not true,
Morgan
though.
is.
I think people read more now than they probably ever
Well,
did.
none of the alternative media people at WBAI or whatever, they say that he takes over the whole show and stuff.
Webster.
But they can't hold.
Well, it's completely domineering.
But don't get on a racehorse if you can't ride. That's what it.
Paul, when he was on with your friend, the seniors, you want to get me on with, what's his name?
Oh, the senior.
What's his name?
Harold Channing.
No, what's his
Harold
name?
Channing.
Harold Channing. He wouldn't let Harold, poor Harold, get a word in edgewise.
Oh my God.
I thought, for Christ's sake, here's Harold Channing, and he's sitting there, and Webster won't let Harold get a fucking word in. Every time, Molly, every time Harold said the least thing, Webster just steamrolled.
Well, you know what? Harold deserves it.
I paid him to do this.
You paid who to do this?
Harold doesn't.
You paid Webster to do it, or you paid Harold to do it?
No, Webster.
Harold doesn't let people talk usually.
I do need another glass.
You will get another one. You can have
reputation for not inviting people on the show.
It's called monologues with Harold Channing.
No, interruptions.
interruptions by Harold. That's what people call it. Harold.
Okay.
No, but he looks like a kindly old senior citizen, but he hasn't let anyone talk on a show for years. You know, Webster is just doing a public service.
All right.
You know?
I'll take your word for it.
No, but anyway, there's just, we need to study. We need to create a university of the airwaves.
Yeah.
Jim, we
Actually, just put it down because I'll recycle it.
Jim, right now, a university education costs about $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, textbooks are outrageous. I think now is the time for things. I think now the time has come. We need a university of the airwaves. People who really want to get educated, we need to figure out.
Well, do you know there's a guy here? Do you ever hear Gary Knoll, who's here?
Yeah, we know.
Well, he had me on to do a whole series on philosophy. I was doing an hour of real, pure philosophy a week. But I started bringing on guests, and it was just too much trouble for me to line up guests, and I was doing so many other things, especially on 9/11, I couldn't maintain it. So I did about 24 shows for him. Wow. About 24 one-hour shows on philosophy there that I gave him.
Wow.
And just pure philosophy.
Right. Like you and Alan?
No.
That wasn't pure.
No, it was just me talking for an hour.
Right.
With no interruptions, like giving a lecture in class.
I mean, that was like your interview with Alan?
No.
That
was an argument.
Pseudo-philosophy.
That was an argument of pseudo-sudism. So look at the Bruce Lipton thing and let me know what you think of. He's a real biologist.
You look at the Bruce Lipton. You promised to look at Bruce Lipton.
Do I have to promise?
He's a real scientist.
Will you read?
Yes, I'll read your book, and we'll have a better discussion next time.
He's going to read your book. If Alan reads your book, will you look at the Bruce Lipton? I'll tell you what, Bruce has draw. We can get seminars with him.
You got to realize I'm getting hundreds of emails every goddamn day, and I've got to make an effort to look at them because who knows, one of them might be important, and it's the one you're not going to think of looking at. So,
right.
I mean, I just get hung up in this stuff. I mean, one of the reasons I retired is to devote myself more to all of this. It's consuming, man.
Well, here's the thing: is that everybody always thinks that when they retire, then they'll actually have more time, and it's more of a question of you have to prioritize your time.
I'm busier now than I was.
Yeah, but you have to prioritize your time because the thing is that if you're a busy person, even if you retire, you still have just as much stuff.
Hey, Alan, thank you for the interview.
Oh, that was fun.
I enjoyed it. The one last night. I enjoyed
that was good. What's your plans for the week? Are you going to?
Oh, I got stuff scattered all over, and I've got a niece here who's an aspiring